Get ready to reclaim your life, discover inspiring stories, practical tools, and the path to true happiness. This is Reclaim Your Life with Irina. Let's begin the journey. Hello and welcome to Reclaim Your Life. Today's guest is Rafi Pryntz-Nadworny. He comes to us from Hawaii. He is the black sheep of a family of performers. Rafi has worked in marketing operations for over 6 years. He's passionate about helping people bring their business ideas to life with productivity coaching. In his spare time, he teaches acro yoga, snorkels, and makes gigantic soap bubbles. Welcome, Rafi. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. So please share with us, who is Rafi?
So Rafi is a explorer and an innovator. So I love coming up with new ideas and seeing how I could bring them to life.
I love it. Awesome. What makes you happy?
I love food. Food makes me really happy.
And what is your favorite one?
I would have to say Indian food. I mean, there's so many varieties within that, but I just love that cuisine. I could eat it for the rest of my life.
Amazing. What makes you smile?
I loved to do improv comedy growing up, and that would always bring a smile to my face because you would be stuck in some ridiculous scenarios they had to keep going.
Do you have a favorite one that you want to share?
No, I mean it's all improv, so like it's not something you rehearse. Like, oh, yeah, I
Oh, it
remember
just
this.
comes up like spur of the moment.
Yes,
Or all right. What makes your heart sing?
my heart sing. Um, Whenever I find that I've made a deeper impact or connection with someone that I didn't realize. So whether it was traveling and a small gesture of kindness, and I was able to see the impact later on, like 5 years later, it changed your life or something like that. Even just the small things.
Mhm.
Um, Realizing just how impactful we are, even when we're not aware of it, it really hits the heart.
Awesome. I love it. What makes you sad or and angry?
Sad and angry. Well, there's a lot in the world right now. Um, and I always try to focus on things that you could control. And I think those are when I see things that could be easily changed and people are too stubborn or unaware of their behaviors or don't care. And, like just people like smashing into other cars and not, leaving their insurance information, just things that bring hardship that could have easily been fixed or made easier.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. How about what scares you?
What scares me? Um, there's a few things. I'm trying to get over my fear of jumping off high places. So I'm not quite afraid of heights, but whenever like cliff jumping, I get a little scared. So I'm trying to overcome that. And then I think this is for a lot of entrepreneurs, the fear of getting rejected. You constantly getting that fear because like you put a lot of hope and dream into your ideas, and so when you go out and present it, um, you kind of feel like yourself is getting rejected as well, along with the idea.
Yeah, we take it personally. What is your number one personal superpower?
My number one superpower has to be innovation. Give me an idea or give me a problem, I will come up with solutions.
I love this one. Awesome. What is your very first trip?
My very first dream or trip?
Trip,
Trip.
travel. Yeah.
Um, yeah, my first major trip I did when I was 13. My whole family did the outer perimeter of the United States. So we went from New York down to Florida, across to California, up to Alaska, and then back down and across the top of the U.S. We did 3 months in an RV with three brothers and myself and
Oh,
my
wow.
parents.
That's incredible. You got to see the whole. Which part was your favorite?
My favorite has to be the Sequoia National Forest,
Mhm.
just because no pictures or videos could ever do it justice. Just the massive size of those trees.
Oh, wow. I haven't been. It's also like on my bucket list of things to see. As a kid, what did you want to be growing up?
Elephant, actually.
Oh,
I was, at 3 years old, everyone's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? But apparently I said elephant.
okay. What did you like school growing up?
Yeah, so I had I guess, a relatively unique upbringing. So I was unschooled my whole life until college.
Mm,
So that meant I went on a field trip basically every day,
okay.
and I got to learn whatever we were passionate about at the time. So I did enjoy it.
Awesome. So what was your favorite subject, I guess, or it was
Our subjects, yeah, we didn't. Um, I mean, for a long time, my brothers and I were really passionate about juggling. So
Mhm.
we all learned how to juggle.
Okay. That's a good skill to have, balancing
Yeah.
and figuring it out. Right. Where you are on your path so far, would you say?
Where am I? I think a quarter of the way there. I don't know. Like, it depends on the destination. So to give it a slightly longer answer, about 2 years ago, I realized I had set up a whole long path for myself. I had to start a business. I had to be successful. I had to like make passive income and like huge amounts of money, and then eventually I would land in a tropical paradise and live there, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then I realized I could shortcut it because, fortunately enough, I had a job that paid the bills, and I could live in Hawaii now. So I kind of took a shortcut in life. So I'm at the destination faster. I don't know. There's
Okay.
still things I want to do in life, obviously, and I skipped over a lot of that.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm guessing at the end and going backwards.
Yeah. And there is nothing wrong in life, in the fact that you realize that sooner, that's kudos to you because the most precious asset we have is time. And if you got there to where you wanted to be in the first place, that's
Yeah, I always
amazing.
wanted to live on a tropical island, and I realized, why am I waiting until I'm successful in order to live there?
Yeah, I love it. What is the cause you are most passionate about?
A cause. Um, it's a time. So I feel really passionate about um, climate change and interaction like that, but also about men's health and awareness, particularly into like the entrepreneurship space. So entrepreneurs are one of the loneliest professions out there,
Yes.
and is a great guy I was talking to. So he's a multimillionaire. He's set up his own company, but he was also like paralyzed with anxiety after selling his company for like 370 for like $1 million. And he gave this presentation, and he was like the top 10 tips or top 10 attributes for highly successful entrepreneurs, right? And he's like, everyone in the webinar raise their hand if they have three or more, right? And we all did. And then he laughed at us. He says, these aren't the attributes for entrepreneurs. These are the attributes for people that are like schizophrenic or some sort of, I forget which mental health disorder he said. It's like, but he was pointing out the fact that if you went to a therapist and listed out your attributes, you would get counseling. Like, what do you mean? But because we're labeled as entrepreneurs, people encourage those behaviors.
Oh, wow. Amazing. What is number one advice you could give to your 18-year-old self?
Yeah, so that would be stop trying to do everything by yourself and find other people you could do it with.
Mhm. That's very good advice. Because oftentimes we take asking for help is like a sign of weakness. That's kind of the idea that growing up. And I think,
Yeah, me too. I thought I could do everything by myself. I would learn it all myself. But there's many things that you just take longer or you just don't want to do, like tax accountants, or how to do investing in Roth IRAs versus 401ks, or like things like that. That
mhm,
I it's not interesting. I had to learn it,
yeah,
but it would have been so much faster or easier if I had a friend who could tell me what I needed to know versus me learning everything and then sifting through the data before I got to what I needed.
yeah, totally. Totally agree with you. What is one smallest thing you've done that has had the biggest impact in your life so far?
Small, well, yeah. So that was changing my goals for something like I want to make $1 million or have a successful business, something I could achieve within 10 minutes.
All right. Can you give me an
Yeah.
example?
Yeah. So, like as a teenager, like, oh, I want like these big, biceps, ripped abs and things like that. I should do like push-ups every day. And it took me 3 years of trying different approaches to realize that if I could make the goal as small as possible, that I had no excuse not to do it, I was able to see consistent results. So, for example, I decided I want to do like those 30-day push-up challenges, right?
Mhm.
And they start off easy where they go 1, 3, 5, 7. And then in week 2, they're like 513, 7,000, like it just unable, unless you were able to already do like 300 push-ups a day, you couldn't make that scaling jump. And I tried really hard and it just didn't work. So I switched it up and I said, I'm just going to do one more than the day before. And I did that and I was able to get to 200 a day.
Amazing.
Just take it very much more gradual, right? Just one more a day. That was it. And I could do it anytime during the day at any number. Um, but I was only able to hit 200 and it was getting really hard to keep it up. And I just stopped. It wasn't until a couple of years later that I'm like, all right, I need to build in the breaks because as soon as I broke my internal rule of like I have to do it every day, it
Mhm.
was really hard to get back on track because I had failed. So now I do an 80-20 rule. It's very arbitrary, but 80% of the year I have to work on my goals, and then 20% I have to relax and vacation, right?
Mhm.
And that has been much more successful. So I'm 3 years running where I've hit the 80% goal. So I've worked on my goals or exercise for 80% of the year. And again, this is just 10 minutes a day for whatever it is minimum, right?
Mhm.
You could go a little bit over, but I try not to do like 7 hours in a weekend because then you just start burning out.
Yeah.
And that's really changed my life in progress. I now have 2 online courses. I moved to Hawaii. I'm able to just see the progress in my ideas and grow so much. I mean, it feels like nothing's happening because it's just 10 minutes, a little bit. But over a couple of years, I'm able to see just how much progress I've been able to make versus, decades of me as a teenager struggling, trying to do like everything in the weekend, the 40 hours on top of a full-time job that some entrepreneurs are glorified for. And I can't.
Yeah, and the thing in the application, in the questionnaire, you mentioned that you are reading Atomic Habits, and I hear a lot of points that you mentioned in your 10-minute thing that you discovered. I think that's incredible. Another good book is A Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, and it also kind of shares the same concept. If you change in 1 degree today, a year later, you 365 degrees more better in I call it a year later versus taking everything now and doing this big push. When we do all those micro things, we could see progress. Of course, when you're inside, you don't see the change, but it's only looking back where the dots connect and you can see, oh wow, I've been here and now I'm here. So totally get you. Awesome advice. Thank you. How were you able to maintain your productivity and triple your happiness?
Yes, that's a great question. So to give a little context, it's the middle of COVID. Things aren't going so great. I'm working from a friend's basement, which is cold and dark, right? So it's the middle of winter. There's also just the temperature differences. So like I'm freezing and miserable. I'm on the computer all day. Then I would finish the work, and then I would just switch to my ideas and I'd just keep working it, right? And I was just not happy because I was just trying to focus and get it done, right? That worker, hustle mentality, just get the work done. Um, and I came across an old TED Talk video that I watched, and I read one of his book, which is called "The Happiness Advantage" by Sean Anker. And he had study after study, so he's a Harvard researcher that looks at organizational behavior and happiness and like how it affects um, the people's work. And basically, study after study show that we have it wrong. It's not that success will bring us happiness; it's that happiness will lead to bigger successes, right? And so I basically decided to experiment, right? So I decided to move to Hawaii, focus on happiness, and see what would happen with my productivity, right?
Right.
And I was able to like force myself to do like the 80%, right? I was able to get it because like the no excuse basically was that it could be midnight and I'm in bed, I'm cozy, it's cold outside, and I'm like, oh, I forgot to do my 10 minutes, right? But it's just 10 minutes. So I'd throw off the colors, I would do it, feel like the guilt of, giving up. But still, it feels, bad when you're forcing yourself to do 10 minutes. So I moved to Hawaii, and the idea of doing a full year experiment to see if I focus on enjoying life more, would that give me more energy to do the work? And so at the end of it, I was able to hit 87% productivity. So that means 87% of the days out of the years I work towards my goals. And my happiness level tripled. So I have a spreadsheet that I keep track of all this data.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's a way to improve, because if the things that you track, those things tend to progress because you pay attention. So what do you mean by happiness? How do you define, what is it
Yes.
according to you?
So it's eudaimonia. I think I pronounced it right. It's a different kind of happiness. A lot of time we think of like euphoria or like the elation that we get from achieving goals. A lot of Western society we're always about like that drive to grow and succeed and to build and become a more holistic human being. Versus I think in like more Easterner philosophies, it's more about acceptance and letting go from attachment and like material things, right? So coming from different angles, be okay where you're at, or be okay with like constantly growing and changing. Um, so the eudaimonia is kind of the other end of the spectrum of hedonism. So hedonism is like maximizing your pleasure and senses all right now, instant gratification, right? Let's take it now. And the eudaimonia is the joy of working towards something that you value. So you might not be enjoying it right in the moment, but you feel connected to whatever that goal or mission or vision you have in life. And it's for me, it's just kind of like the quiet satisfaction of just being able to see or work on something, right? So an artist who's like carving or sculpting, you're not done with it. You finish and see the whole statue in all its beauty, but just like the joy of kind of like being able to see small bits of progress.
I love it. What is your purpose? What moves you forward?
Yeah, so my purpose, I think, is to make the world a cleaner and healthier place, or sustainable. So that's what I do, and it's through the ideas that I create, right? So if I could generate enough ideas and help other people become entrepreneurs, then I think the impact on the world would be great.
Yeah, totally. So how do you find your clients currently?
My clients, yep. So I do a lot of podcasts,
Right.
and I also am starting to do more posts on social media. And I know a lot of people like, oh, just post, 3 to 5 times a day. But as a marketing operations person, I know that could get quickly tiring. So now I'm looking at platforms that kind of use more about search intent. So that one article could be written and it could be viewed, or YouTube is a great example for those kind of things, where as long as you know what people are talking about and what questions they have, you don't have to do 5 times a day YouTube videos.
Please tell us more like about your work and your business.
Yeah, so I work as a full-time marketing operations specialist. So it's a PEO company. So that we do help with like the HR, the payroll, things like that. It's great. I just started about 4 to 5 months ago. And it's great because there I basically have to come up with the different paths to getting to where we need to go, right? So we have a prospect, how do we get them to become a customer or figure out if they are a right fit for us, and how to help them along their journey so they make a purchase decision or not. Well, that's my work, and um, my own personal business is Idea Strider, and that is um, the community that I wish I had growing up. So I talked about, asking for help as a kid. So entrepreneurs being one of the loneliest professions, it's really hard to find co-founders that you connect with because that's like finding a soulmate or a best friend, right? It's really hard, especially when you add the business stuff to that. I've seen friendships unfortunately break apart just at the idea level because they're arguing about future revenue that they didn't have, and the idea never got off the ground. So I've seen that. Or the flip side is that you can't afford to hire people to do all the work that you need to get done to see if the idea is actually going to work, right? So they're kind of stuck in this middle of like not enough money and don't want to risk or it's too hard to find people. So I'm starting a program. It's just a wait list right now, but once I have enough people to start startup squad. So you work in groups of 3. You work on the same kind of business, even though everyone has their own business. So there'll be like 3 software as a service founders, 3 coaches, 3 e-commerce, Etsy store owners, and you have your groups. And each person in the group has their own expertise. So you'll have like a marketer, a developer, and a project manager, or a mindset coach, a copywriter, and a web designer, right? Whatever the expertise, like the core expertise you need for your type of business. And then you're able to help each other. So like 1 hour of my time, go in the market is about $100 an hour. But I could do much more than someone who's just learning how to do like email marketing or set up the workflows than like a coach. And that coach, might be a fantastic copywriter who could write 10 times more than I could in an hour. So it's kind of like helping each other with the skills that we're weak.
Okay.
And then on top of that, I have a panel of experts. So if your group doesn't know the answer, you have experts to call on. Yeah.
So like barter network, you exchange your expertise for other person's expertise, and you also have support. If 3 of you don't know, you can ask external work.
Yeah, so there's a lot of entrepreneur communities out there, and I don't see a lot of them combining this specific combination of like accountability buddies and mentorship as well as the productivity coaching.
Amazing. And what is the outcome of this? What are you hoping to?
Oh yeah, so the whole idea is building momentum, right? So a lot of people, and there's unfortunately not a lot of research on it because it's so hard to quantify, but I believe that at least 50 to 75% of would-be entrepreneurs, the people that are just getting started, stop before their idea is even in reality, right? They stop before their idea has left the ground or out of their head, just because they get bogged down into building a website or trying to like contact customers, whatever it is. And they stop so early in the stages that they never see if their idea is a good one or not. So the outcome for me, just like I was able to go from 0 to 200 push-ups a day, is to make sure that people build and maintain momentum in their business.
And don't give up on their dream or their idea. See the idea, come realize, and then find out if it's viable or not viable.
Right.
I love it. I think it's awesome. What is the 3 biggest lessons you experienced since your wake-up call? And I call wake-up call, you were living in the basement in your friend's house, and now you're in Hawaii, in tropical island. What are the 3 biggest lessons that you think you learned in that?
Yeah, so we kind of touched on pieces of them. For the first one is changing goals to being 10 minutes or less, right? Something so small, I had zero excuse not to do it when I had to do it. The second one was changing my mindset of how I measure progress. Instead of having those big milestones or trying to achieve goals that would take months to work on. Like I want to complete a course, that takes 2 to 3 months. That's a lot of hard work. To something that I could feel success every day. So like if I did laundry, I was successful, right? I did laundry. And anything above that is great. So changing that perspective really helped with the stress of the long-term haul, because like any kind of business, you're going to be in it for the long haul. So being able to feel gratitude or motivation for achieving these small successes is great. And then, of course, you have your bigger milestones that you could look back on and see, oh, look how far I come. But the goal is to feel success in those small things. Um, and then the third thing that was really critical was taking breaks, right?
Mhm.
Like forcing yourself to try to do it every single day is a recipe for failure, because then you start breaking your own role and you're fighting with yourself, and it's just a lot more mental energy wasted than
Right.
when you're like, no, I have, literally like 70 days of vacation time that I could use whenever I want if I don't feel like it, right? And not forcing yourself when you feel terrible. And um, this is a bigger thing that I'm kind of like putting out there, is that no pain, no gain is like a common saying, right? You have to live outside your comfort zone if you're going to grow. I think that's false. And there's very few people that can do that and succeed, right? Those are the stereotypical type A personality entrepreneurs who are just like hustle. They work 40 hours a week. They could work, 80 hours on top of that. And I think that's why so many people don't succeed, is because they're trying to mimic those 1%. And I think if people were able to work within their comfort zone and build their comfort zone bigger within it, they would be able to succeed easier and faster, because they're not doing things that bring them way outside their comfort zone, where they're feeling, fear, anxiety, because all those feelings don't go away, right? If you're constantly exposing yourself, you're just going to build up resistance whenever you want to build your business. But
Right.
if you're feeling comfortable or slightly, on the edge of it, you're able to slowly push it. Like public speaking, great example. Let's make it really concrete.
Mm.
If I were to ask to do a TED talk right now, I would be shaking in my boots. It would be really scary.
Right.
But I could work up to that and grow my comfort zone to the point where I would feel totally confident in that by saying, like, talking in the mirror every day, right? Something I could do myself. And
Yeah.
then I would record myself and listen to myself recording, post it on Instagram, YouTube, whatever, and slowly build up to the point where, presenting in front of 10,000 people um, wouldn't be that far of a stretch. Those micro improvements, just 10 minutes a day, but the same thing.
I love it. I think you totally make a good point that oftentimes we give up too soon, we fear, because this is our natural ability, and our mind always tries to protect us and makes it difficult to step out of the comfort zone. And I love the things that you mentioned, your 3 lessons, the 10 minutes, like not making something so far-fetched, but 10 minutes, because we all have 10 minutes. I recommend to people to practice 10 minutes of joy every day to create the happiness muscle. How you brush your teeth? What if we just do something that makes us happy 10 minutes a day, every day?
Yeah.
And then second point, you mentioned celebrating small wins. You don't have to, go to the moon. We can just, make a bed and be happy. Making those little things, like little micro milestones on our way to a goal, and awarding us for that, because when we get that positive reinforcement, it will propel us to keep moving forward. In myself, I noticed I recently got certified as a fitness coach, and in the beginning you take like a DEXA scan which measures where you are, and then 3 months later you do another one, and then because you did that before and after, you see the change. That momentum propels you forward, even though in the process you don't see much change, but then you do that snapshot, and in your case you're doing your tracking, that you're able to see that growth. I think it's amazing. And the last point you mentioned, taking breaks. I love it. Like when you you said that 80-20, the fact that you take vacations, 70 days is like, wow, that's like, how much is it? Like 2.5 months of vacation.
Yeah.
When you put it all together, it's like, I never kind of thought about it, but you kind of put it a different light on it. So thank you for sharing those points. I think those are incredible. Is there anything that I haven't asked that you want to share?
Um, yeah. So I think this is kind of my mindset, is that there are many, many paths to success. So over the last 20 years, I've looked at every possible, passive income strategy or business ideas out there to try to find which was the best path for me.
Right.
And at the end of the day, a lot of people just say do the work, right? Hands down. I think that it's more important on how well you could walk down a path than which path you take to success.
Mhm.
And it's more important on having the support network, right? To whenever you fall, you trip, you get lost, you stumble, switch paths, the wrong path is dangerous, whatever, that when those things happen, you have people that could help you get up and move forward, right? I think especially in America, we pride ourselves on being independent and strong and healthy and like we could do it on our own. But every successful entrepreneur that I see out there was a success because they had an incredible support network and were able to use that at the times that they needed it.
Totally, totally. I love it. Support is so, so important. We don't have to do it on our own. We think we do, but we don't have to. How they say, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
Just like a metaphor, but it also takes a village to birth an idea, to birth a project together. And more heads is better than one. If people would love to find you or learn more about you, where would they go?
Yeah, so they could go to ideastrider.com. That's my website. Or we could connect, and it's the same thing on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook and stuff. So IdeaStrider on any of those platforms. And you can find my business in Buy.more, TikTok.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story. I loved your lessons. Hope you have an amazing time in Hawaii. And yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks for having me on.